Hey everyone, welcome to the Fullest podcast. Today's guest is Brian Smith, who is the co founder of Winc and the founder of Wonderful Wine Co. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here speaking with you today.
Me too. I'm excited to learn more about you and what, took you on your journey into the wine world, and also just learn a lot more about natural wine as well because I'm very new to it. And yeah, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful beverage. I love your wine as well. So I'm really excited to learn more about how you ended up creating the company and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Wine is a real passion for me. And I think there's been a lot of change lately in an industry that is relatively unchanged for a very long time. And so the emergence of natural wines and wines with fewer inputs rather than being sort of shaped to hit a certain palate profile and taste profile, has been around for a long time. But there's certainly a lot of energy around the term natural, and there's a lot of excitement around this category of wine. So happy to talk more about that, and also how we came up with Wonderful Wine Co, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you brought up the fact that there's been kind of a lot of change recently because I think of Wink also as a company that is at the forefront of change in general with the wine industry. I mean, you guys built a really strong brand, and so I think I'm just really excited to see how you educate people in the natural wine on natural wine and that world as well. But I'd love to learn about how you started Wink and how that idea came to be.
Yeah, happy to. So we've been around for a little while now. We've been around for about 7 years.
Yeah.
What really started with a simple idea, which was how do you make wine easier for people at scale, right? And at the time, e-commerce and wine greatly under indexes other consumer categories, electronics, apparel, home goods, furniture, you name it, sort of across the board. And really, many of the best sort of brands or wineries in the space have also been built over the past 20 years in a direct consumer fashion. So, but more people visiting tasting rooms and trying something in the context of a winery and taking something home or signing up for a list. So it's been an important part of the wine business, but it had never really been explored from a strictly e-commerce perspective as we had done. And so when we started out, it was like, we want to make it easy. You sign up, you answer a few questions, and we start helping you explore this really diverse world. By making recommendations, so personalized, curated, and you get a couple bottles of wine each month that likely fit your palate profile. And then as you consume the wines and enjoy the wines, you make sort of ratings, and we get a fair amount of data and information from our customers, and we ultimately take that data, which really doesn't exist in the normal wine space if you're a producer selling into a store or a wholesaler. And so we take that data, and we started making our own wines, and sort of taking that consumer feedback loop and pulling it all the way back into the decisions we're making in the vineyard, and sort of the brand identities that we're building for our products. And so today, Winc is a portfolio of brands. You can visit winc.com. It's really the gatekeeper for e-commerce for us, where you'll find all of our brands and that recommendation and discovery and diversity. And then we have brands that have grown up sort of outside of Winc as well. Brands like Summer Water, which is a family of rosé driven brands. We have a sparkling brand. That's the official wine of the Hollywood Bowl when that was open. You'll find it in Whole Foods and in restaurants and retail stores. And then brands like and projects like Wonderful Wine Co. So it's a very diverse company, but it's really about being connected to the consumer, valuing that relationship to build trust so we can turn people on to new products. And then allow us to be more creative because we're connected to the consumer, to make things like Wonderful Wine Co. and kind of push innovation in this category.
taking a moment to tell you about the latest in the gummy world. Herbaland's new line of beauty gummy vitamins has changed the game when it comes to keeping up that glow. And their latest and newest member of the beauty family is Acai Berry Twist, which helps increase your antioxidant levels and ups overall our detoxification game. They also have added their vegan collagen booster and pure beauty gummies for those of you that want a quick, easy, and yummy way to get your collagen in. And we're super happy to have partnered with them to give you 25% off your order today at herbaland.com. Use code TheFullest at checkout. Enjoy! Did you have a background in e-commerce, or was it your intention from the get-go to collect all this data, or did it naturally happen?
Yeah, I actually didn't. My background's pretty diverse. I after college, I was a pro snowboarder, so I did that for a while. But wine is a real passion for me. I was living in Jackson Hole. Still wanted to snowboard during the day, but didn't wasn't really sponsored anymore. And so I took a job in a wine shop working at night. It was really a liquor store, and people would come in and ask, why should I buy this Cabernet, the $70 cab versus this 13? And I had no idea. And out of sheer insecurity, I started to read about it and taste wine so I could at least be somewhat informed. And I absolutely fell in love with wine. It just sort of happened for me. The cultural significance, the history, sort of the diversity, and the fact that you could have all of this theoretical knowledge that you could build up around something you actually taste was really cool. My favorite part of it was turning people onto wine. So I come from a wine background versus in e-commerce, but I've also worked in finance and as an entrepreneur and fashion, e-commerce to some degree. But really, my wine experience comes from that passion and being a sommelier, which ultimately led me into different hospitality projects where we leverage technology in a physical environment to engage people with wines. I had a wine bar called Clo in New York. And then also starting my own brand called Localinda and Jolie Full, where I made wine in Argentina and Provence and was importing it and distributing it nationally. And so I sort of had experience across the entire range of wine, from making it to importing it to selling it, working in hospitality and building lists, and across the entire piece. And when I met my partners, they had experience in hospitality, but also in the payment space, where
Oh,
many of the e-commerce metrics come from.
yeah.
And when we got together, it was like, wow, how do we take sort of this experience and this passion for the category, and this knowledge that can be applied in a new way to the category, and start a business?
It's like the Netflix of wine, basically, but
Yeah,
in a more, like, way cooler way. I don't wanna say that, but yeah, like, then it's curated for what works for you, and the algorithm understands you. That's awesome.
yeah, it really is. It's pretty interesting because when we started, it was really about acquiring customers and having great products, but it was more about how do we find people to sort of join Wing.
Yeah,
And then it evolved into very much like Netflix, which I think is pretty interesting. They're really just investing in great content and programming, right? And
yeah.
so when we think about our products and our wine, that's what we're doing. We've attracted an audience, we've built trust. Now, how do we get better at creating great products? And so that's kind of the phase of the business that we're in now, and it's a fun phase.
Cool. Okay, so you're in the space. What sparked your interest in natural wine? Were people asking about it, or was it something that you were, passionate about because you came from that world?
I've always been super excited about it. I mean, I think very early on, I did a tasting in my New York wine bar that was all Beaujolais before Beaujolais was really cool. So I've always been into it, and what I love about it is I think the wines are great. I love the natural element, the zero additives, handmade piece of it, but I also love the fact that it's category where you can really collect very precious things,
Mhm.
much like wine collectors that collect Burgundy that's thousands of dollars and you have to put it in your cellar. But you can do it in that 20 to $50 range and get some really interesting things. So the exploration of that category is really fun. I also think from a stylistic point of view, the flavors are they're very bright. They're very sort of tart. There's a lot of energy in the wines, and I personally find that really attractive. And I think a lot of the modern palate moves more towards kombucha-like flavors that are bright, poppy, snappy, sour, spicy versus just sugar, which is sort of like historic wine in the U.S.
Yeah.
So a lot of it came
So
from a personal interest and my own personal consumption habits.
that's awesome. So then does that mean, does natural wine, okay, is natural wine the same thing as raw wine? Like we need a little 101 on this.
Yeah, the 101 is like it is, it's very loosely defined yet very tribal space. The people
Yeah.
who are natural wine producers and purveyors and advocates, it's a pretty tight knit group. But essentially, with natural wine, there isn't any legal definition. It's really having zero input on the wine. You're not really adding anything, and you're not really taking anything away. So they tend to be, farmed very oftentimes biodynamically or organic, but usually they aren't certified. They aren't going through the process of certifying. They're made with usually natural yeast, so you're not adding yeast. The yeast, just whatever's in your vineyard, kind of kicks off and creates that fermentation. And then they're typically not fined or filtered. So there's no filtration or bottle prep or additions when you go into the bottle. And so that's kind of the basis. There are different degrees of what people do. There's certified organic, which is a bit more rigid. There's sustainable, certified sustainable, which is sort of a regional application. But I think in general, natural wines are sort of wild wines with zero inputs and zero taken away.
That's a really good way of putting it. Because when I started looking more into it, I I in the past, like I've had maybe a glass of Kate or different wines that say they're biodynamic, but that's not the same as a natural wine. So can you explain a little bit about what those um those companies that aren't necessarily a natural wine, but are they just using biodynamic grapes maybe in their wine? Is that
I think to some degree, natural wine has a style to it too, because there are some very sort of famous blue chip Bordeaux, expensive Bordeaux chateau that are using biodynamic farming, but are using, oak and sort of filtration and other techniques along the way. So in that case, they're basically saying like we think biodynamic farming produces the best raw material and the best sort of positive life cycle for that vineyard to continue to produce. But the way we make our wines is a little different because we think this is the best. We think we can turn this great raw material into the best expression of itself by introducing some other variables. So I think that's the big difference. Is you definitely have a lot of what would be considered traditional wine producers that are taking going to the extreme lengths of great biodynamic farming and stewardship of the vineyards, but are not what you would call they wouldn't fall into the natural wine camp, which, like I said before, tends to be like a more stylistic thing where the wines are a little wild. There's bottle variation. They're aged for a long time, typically. The reds are, best served sort of bright, young, and cold, and the whites are sort of orange and funky. So I think that's what people think of when they think of natural wine. There's sort of the practices, the practical practices behind it, and then there's a stylistic imprint that I think has become quite popular in the states.
that makes sense. I really enjoyed trying all the different ones that you guys came up with. So tell us more about what's next for Wonderful Wine Co. Do you think that there's going to, I mean, you have a market, a target audience that's probably hungry for this because they want to enjoy a glass of wine, but they don't want to feel guilty about it. They want to stick to their, you know, organic diet or what keto, whatever, maybe not keto, but paleo, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
you have that audience that knows and appreciates it, but I know that there are so many people that don't know. So what's the yeah, what's the strategy with you guys? Is there going to be a lot of education that you invest in, or are you just like kind of going after the people that know, a combination?
So yeah, some of the, a lot of the impetus comes from a personal love for natural wines and doing right by the environment. But Wink as a company, we've been leaning in this direction, although it's a big ship to steer in that direction. A lot of our wines are low in sugar, no added sugar. They tend to be 90% are low sulfur. 60% of what we produce is sustainable and climbing. And we've done a lot just in terms of the supply chain because we're direct consumers. So anything from removing capsules, you'll notice that our Wonderful Wine Co. wines don't have capsules on them. The little tin or plastic cap because,
Oh,
oh, yeah, at the top of the bottle, there's like a tin or plastic kind of cap that you take off before you remove the cork.
yeah.
We kind of looked at it and we were like, people drink our wines young. That's the reason they have those is so you can age wine and the cork is protected from like rodents or erosion in the cellar or whatever. So we've done things like eliminate those and eliminate. We've eliminated millions of capsules. We use lightweight glass. We use sugarcane corks. We move our wine around in tanks whenever possible. So there's been a push towards sustainability for our company. And we've also seen that people really like these light, flat, low sugar styles of wine. So when we thought about starting, Wonderful, it was like, how do we, how do we take what we've learned from our customers, this sort of passion for the category, and make something really cool and relevant? And so, we wanted to start with great product, but we wanted to um, sort of go through and tick as many boxes as we could of like what we thought made a really great wine. So that was vegan, so not using any animal products in filtration. It was sustainable. It was certified organic, low sulfur, low to no sugar, nothing added, and nothing taken away. And that's kind of where we started. And then from the brand, I live in LA. Wellness is a big thing. Um, I like to feel that I incorporate wellness in my life, but I do it. I'm also in the wine business, so I do it in a way where it's not like I'm not like so militant, right? Like I'll do
Yeah.
yoga, I work out, but I like a great glass of wine. And so we really oriented the brand around celebrating the great qualities of it, but wellness without deprivation, right? It's like wellness without uh, really torturing yourself, because at the end of the day, it's like we're putting great glasses of wine in front of people. And so I think that really comes through in the brand. And then, that really allows us to experiment in terms of who we work with, how we communicate, and sort of where we take the product. One of the first things that we've made that's really exciting, we made it, like many of the wines we're just releasing last year, but we're doing a bunch of skin contact wines. So orange wines that are made like similar to a red wine, but that have a real amber hue and a different profile. So we've got all sorts of experiments that will come out, things that are in tank and things that we're preparing for this harvest that will come out for Wonderful over the next 12 months.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I was going to ask you because it takes so long from concepting to actually having the beverage come to fruition, and it's similar to any other wine as well, but with natural wine, like you said, there's no inputs, no outputs, so I feel like it's even more delicate. So how far back, I mean, how long have you guys been, working on Wonderful Wine Co. before finally launching it?
Yeah, about a year and a half, really. And we actually started working. We were working on the wines before we had, as we were building sort of the brand identity and really what it would look like. So about a year and a half. We've released some of the wines that we made very early on that are early release, but we're actually just bottling a couple for the first time right now. And then, like I said, this harvest we're preparing for, like, okay, we're out in the market now and we're getting some feedback. How do we continue to use this kind of cool, fun platform to push innovation in this category next year? So we're just coming into harvest, in a few months here.
That makes sense. So how long does it ferment for?
Yeah, fermentation really depends on it depends on the grape, right? So red wine fermentations are typically a little longer because well, especially if you're fermenting on the skins, because you're trying to extract all the color in a wine. It comes from the skins. If you eat a grape, the center of it is basically like clear.
Yeah.
So the more time you're fermenting or sitting on the skins, the more color and extraction you get. So it really kind of depends. Probably, typically fermentations are longest on the red wines that we're doing, and orange wines are pretty long as well, and then wines are pretty and rosés are pretty quick.
Is it like months or because natural wine, is it less than a different or traditional method?
Well, it kind of depends actually, because you are you're sort of leaving the yeast to eat the sugars and not accelerating it by adding anything. So it can kind of depend. We made a wine in France with a friend of ours. It was skin contact Viognier, and it was in a cold cellar in Burgundy. And that the fermentation started, and it was like going really slow, and then it got really cold in the cellar, and the yeast went dormant, and so fermentation just stopped. And then it warmed up again, and it came back again, and we were just kind of twiddling our thumbs, like waiting to see what was going to happen. So there's definitely some. You're definitely waiting for nature to sort of run its course with natural wines. That's for sure.
So, and I know that Wonderful Wine Co. You can just go on and purchase a bottle. It's not the same as Wink, where it's on a membership or a subscription. So, are you going to introduce Wonderful Wine Co. into Wink subscriptions, or is it kind of going to stay separate and maybe eventually have its own?
Yeah, so we'll do both eventually. So Wonderful Wine Co. is definitely the place to go to find it right now, and we continue to add some special things there, even as we make some of it available to our members on Wink. So there'll be like exclusive drops and releases and things that happen on Wonderful Wine Co. Throughout the next 6 months. And then we'll also start to sell the wines, specific wines that have been rated really highly by our customers, into retail and restaurants.
Oh, awesome. So, it'll be on site as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yep.
really exciting. And are
Next
your
year.
other wines on site right now, or is this kind of going to be the first product that you guys have that's with at other places?
Yeah, so we do sell some other wines. We have Summer Water, which is Central Coast rosé made from Grenache, that we sell pretty broadly in stores and in restaurants when they're open and recovering, which we hope soon. Um, and we also have a Pinot Noir project called Folly of the Beast, both highly rated wines that have been very successful and are available sort of outside of our e-commerce ecosystem. So there are a number of them, and they're growing quickly, and you can find them in Whole Foods and independent restaurants and retailers, and as well as some chains.
Awesome. And if someone wants to go learn more about Wonderful Wine and maybe buy a bottle, but also just learn more about natural wine from you guys specifically, do you have that on your website?
Yes, you can visit wink.com or wonderfulwineco.com, and you can find out more about our our company and the cool things that we're making.
Yeah, you guys have lots of cool things. I think I've heard of Summer Water. Is it at Whole Foods?
It is at Whole Foods. They've been a great partner for us, so you can see it and find it there. It's
That's
been
so cool. So hopefully Wonderful Wine Co. will be at Whole Foods and people can have access to it if they want it last minute. That would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And then yeah, and from our e-commerce sites as well, we ship within 2 day shipping to most of the U.S. So if you're not near a Whole Foods or can't find it, you can always find us online as well.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you. It was so nice to meet you and chat and learn more about natural wine and the difference, and also just about your company in general, just Wink and all the different projects. I appreciate you guys being so just a big at the forefront of sustainability and making so much change within the entire company, not just the segment that's, targeting wellness people. I think that's really important for people to know. And I'm so glad that we touched on it for a little.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It is a work in progress with a lot of work ahead, but I appreciate that. And thank you so much for having me. Love what you do.
Hi, everyone. Let's take a moment to discuss your mattress. Finding a comfortable, non toxic, and chemical free mattress became a main priority for me once I found out what traditional mattresses are made from. Not only are they not sustainable for the environment, but they're also detrimental to our health when we consider the amount of time we spend laying on our mattress, which is about a third of our lifetime. I'm so happy to announce that this podcast is supported by Avocado Green Mattress, offering mattresses that are handmade in California with certified non-toxic and organic materials. Avocado Green Mattress is climate neutral certified and a member of 1% for the Planet, where 1% of all sales, not profits, but sales, which is a lot, go to environmental nonprofits. So visit avocadogreenmattress.com and use code TheFullest for $150 off a mattress for the Fullest podcast listeners. I really, really love my mattress so much, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think about yours.